I'm Rosy Hardy. This is Rosy Hardy Gardening. Today I'd like to just go through a few of the most essential tools that I would use all the time in my garden. I'm going to start off with hand tools and then I'll go on to the powered tools. Now I must just make a disclaimer at this point that none of the companies that I mention am I being paid for. It's just these are the ones that I like and the ones that I use. So let's have a little look at what we're doing. So I am actually somebody who really likes a hand tool that has a wooden handle on it. Now this happens to have a white bit of tape around here, only because if we ever take these out and go and do a little bit of gardening on somebody else's site, I've got my name on them. So these are stainless steel. It's a lovely hand fork. I like a wooden handle because it doesn't get cold. It always seems to be warm and it's much more tactile. Now a hand fork is really great. You can dig little holes out, you can scrattle around on the top. They're brilliant for getting out those long tap roots of weeds when it's really difficult to do that. So they tend to be the thing that I go to first rather than a trowel. And this trowel, again, it's a stainless steel one, but I was given these. I was given a pair. I was given this and a nice hand fork, and they're slightly longer on the handle, as you can see from this one. But it's a plastic. It's a very hard plastic. It's been moulded. Well, it's not the right size for my hand, so it's not one size fits all, fits my point of view. And the reason why I don't have the hand fork anymore is that in the cold weather, these solid plastic handles actually shatter. So that's of absolutely no use whatsoever. And also they eventually become loose, whereas the ones there don't. So I will use this occasionally, but this one usually sits just sort of tucked into a pot, and more often than not, it gets used to move the dog poo and cat poo out of place than it gets used for actually working in the garden. So I'm not very much a fan of those, although I do like hand tools. And as I say, with a wooden handle like this, it's brilliant. So I'm going straight for the fork when it's that type of things. When it comes to slightly larger, longer handled things, then I'm always keen on using the border spade and fork. So these are the ones which are slightly smaller in size. They might have longer handles depending, so you can get them from different heights. You can see with these two that actually the fork is slightly longer. These are antique ones. These were my mother's. And they were replacement ones, and you'll see that they have got D handles on them, lovely wooden. The patterner, your hand goes round it, it's lovely and smooth. You don't get all those calluses on your hands when you're using these. Lovely, firm, and able to use them. And with them having a wooden handle, you can get them replaced. So that is really great. Now, quite often, incorrectly, these are known as ladies' forks and spades. They aren't. They are border ones. They were made to be slightly smaller and narrower from the point of view that if you were going into a border which had a lot of plant material, then you don't need the really big fork for that sort of job. You want a slightly smaller one. And I find these are great because quite often you can put them in one hand and you can use these, do a bit of digging with one hand and hold on to the plant with the other hand. And that works really, really well. Again, I do tend to use a fork far more often than I use the spade. I do find actually that even though I'm a shorter stature, I prefer a slightly longer leverage, so the longer handle helps. You've got to be very careful that you don't get them too long, but you also, if you're a tall person, you don't use something that's too short, because you can put strain on your back if you're not using them properly. So these are great, these are really lovely. So those are my favorite fork and spade for working in the garden when I'm doing planting or I'm digging up or moving stuff around. Those are what I go for there. Now, if I'm pruning, and at this time of the year you'll be cutting back stuff and pruning, then I have two things that I utilize and use. For the smaller stuff, up to about the width of my finger here, I would use these snips, and I would use those for deadheading, for collecting seed, for pruning back and tidying up plant material. They are really, really good. These are ARS snips, and I've talked about these before. They really are a very nice to use pair of snips. Plastic handles here, they're quite easy. A little lightweight spring. Well, it's not little, but it's lightweight. It doesn't need a lot of pressure to actually get them to close and to use. And they have blades on both sides. So it's like cutting with a pair of scissors. You get a really lovely clean cut. So I'll use these for propagating. I'll use them, as I say, up to about this size. They will get through that, and they're really, really good. Red handles are quite good, but I have to say, because they're quite small, you can sort of drop them down places. We quite often find these in the compost heap and sort of take them out, clean them up. Perfectly okay. They keep on working, so that is brilliant. So that is the ARS snips. They're the ones for the tidying up, clearing around and doing, and they get used all year round. And then for the bigger jobs, I will use my Felcos. I like the ones with the twisty handle here. So this is a Felco 7. So I've had Felcos ever since I was at college. So I've used Felcos since I was probably in my late teens, and they are really, really good. And the beauty of Felcos is you can actually send them back to the manufacturer and they will refurbish them for you should you need to. So I have probably got about 3 pairs of these. I have got a pair which are just the straight normal ones, and I've got another form as well, but that's basically because I will have lost one and I've bought myself another pair, or I've now inherited my mother's ones, so I have got some extra ones, and I keep them always because they're brilliant. These are for the much tougher jobs, much bigger material, but with these you've got one blade going straight onto a side, so you do get a clean cut, but it's a different type of cut to the cut that you would get with the snips. So those are those ones. Once you go past anything that is bigger, then I have my little toy. I've got my little hand Stihl. So this is a little pruner. It's basically a mini chainsaw. Look at that. Beautiful little blade there. And what's that? It's about 4 inches. It's about, I don't know, 15 centimeters, I would say, long. Really powerful. Has its own little battery pack. Comes in a lovely little case, and you have your guard here. This is brilliant. So this one, you go out, you do your logs, you do tree pruning. So you can take anything up to that sort of size diameter of log on this, and it just cuts really, really nicely. And remember, let the saw do the work. Don't try and push down with it, just let it do the work, and it will work really, really nicely. Easy to clean, easy to maintain. There are obviously other makes out there, and I'm not saying anything against those. We just happen to have Stihl because we have the batteries, and therefore we might as well keep on using the ones which have got the same ones. This I love, and this is brilliant for me to go out and do fruit tree pruning, other tree pruning and everything else, and it's a great little piece of kit. Then the other one that I've got, which I love and I utilize a huge amount in my back garden where I'm mowing all of my pathways, and this is the Stihl mowing machine. What I love about this is it's very, very simple to set up. Your batteries go in your batteries go in here. It can take 2. We utilize these. The reason we got this, we'd already got a strimmer that we already had a hedge trimmer. They interchange the batteries, so you just charge them up and off you go. So the batteries go in there. You can take this off, it all pulls out, no problem at all. It's got plenty of safety features, but what I really like is being able to lift it up and down really, really easily. Now, if you do that on some of the other machines, it's very, very difficult, but you just click a switch and down, and you can have a low cut, lift it up, and you can have a high cut. It is brilliant for my pathways through my wildflower area. It is fantastic for that. So not only do I have favourite tools that I like to use, I also have favourite gardenware that I really do like utilising. And I have just recently, although I've known about them for a long time, have decided to utilise and get myself Genus Gardenwear. Now do remember, as I said at the beginning, none of the companies are paying me for any of these reviews. This is my own personal opinion on the clothing. So the Genus wear is brilliant. So for instance, this jacket is really good. It has a two-way zip, which is fantastic. It's got a beautiful lining. It has lots of pocket space, even has a pocket right at the back here that you can put things in. So that is fantastic. Now, what I love about the trousers that they have are that there are so many different styles. These ones happen to be the narrow leg ones, and again lots of pockets. So you've got pocket on the side here, you've got a normal pocket here, bum pocket, and again one that goes across the back. So those are really useful. But the two very clever, smart things about the Genus workwear, gardening workwear, is that there are knee pads, and these knee pads are inside here and they are removable. So that means, for instance, if you you're not working or doing that sort of job, you can take the knee pads out. I leave them in most of the time. You never know when you're going to have to suddenly go down like this. You don't end up giving your knees an absolute bashing, and they're great and they're very easy to put in and out. Now the other good thing about these is that they are shower proof, so that's really good. They're of a good weight. I've got a pair of shorts as well, and I tell you what, I love the shorts. I live in the shorts all summer long. And I wasn't so sure about the jacket, but actually I'm just using it all the time. And it's so much better than some of my down jackets in that I don't get all of these horrible snicks in them and having to, as you will have noticed on some of the videos, I just put plasters over my coats because basically they've got a tear. I put an elastoplast on it and then I can keep on using it. These don't get tears, so they are snag proof. That is also really good. But the one clever thing about these is this side pocket. They are Kevlar lined. So basically you've got this slit pocket down the thigh. They're on both sides like that down there, and you can just put your snips in there. No holes in your pockets, because how many times do you put things like snips or secateurs into your back pockets and then you suddenly find holes and holes appearing? I've got so many jeans that have got their pockets like that. These are brilliant. They're just in the right place. You can grab them really easily. It's like coming out and drawing a gun almost, but they're brilliant. So you can put a plain blade in there. They're a nice width. They go down a good depth, which means that you've put something in there even with a slightly longer handle. So I could, for instance, put my Felcos in here as well because they're a bit bigger. They go in and sit in the side there, no problem at all. So really useful Kevlar lined pockets on the side. I think that's really cracking. That and these knee pads, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I actually take the knee pads out and use the trousers as walking trousers because they're brilliant. They're really good. They're stretchy. You can move. You can get into all sorts of positions. So that is fine. Now, the other thing you need to do, especially in the winter, you need to be warm. So I will always wear a beanie. So I have hundreds and hundreds of beanies, quite often lose them, but you've got them there. I have varying ones, whether they're waterproof or what have you. But if you're working in the wet, there is nothing worse than having bad clothing. You've got to have good clothing. So I always say light layers are the best thing. And I will always get Gore-Tex as my waterproofs. These ones happen to be Berghaus ones. Gore-Tex, always important. These are thicker weight, but they zip up and they've got lines all the way up here. So poppers all the way up, right the way up the legs. You can undo it all the way up through like so. These happen to be lined, so these are better for the winter months. They're a little bit hot for the summer, so I have got their lighter hydro shell ones for the summer, which are much, much lighter. But these zip up, right the way through to there, which means you can get in and out of them, no problem at all. Put them over the top of boots, all sorts of things. They are really great. And the one beauty of these is that they'll go in the washing machine, they dry very quickly, and they can be reproofed if you need to. So that is always something I would look for, is making sure you get a good deal, you buy the good type of things. The same with coats, make sure. And I always tend to get things which are just a shell. I don't get them lined, because that way these are nice and light. You can throw them over the top of all the rest of your layers, because there's nothing worse than wearing something which is really heavy. It doesn't make you any warmer. You want little light layers, loads and loads of light layers, and it makes such a difference. Now, I'm someone who gets terribly cold hands, and I have now come to the conclusion, it's not taken many years, come to the conclusion gloves are absolutely no use to people who have got poor circulation. So I tend to wear fingerless mitts. Now, my fingerless mitts literally do not even have any separations, because I used to find the good old-fashioned fingerless mitts, which were just literally cut off glove ends, still kept my hands really, really cold. So the key thing, if you've got cold hands, is a long bit so that it goes right the way down over your wrist, and you're just covering this bit of your hand. And they can be from anywhere. I mean, I've got a friend who makes these ones, so these are great. So they just tuck in through there, and they are really long on the wrist. You then have the rest of your hand open. Okay, so your fingers are exposed. But what I've found is that any separation down through here on my fingers of anything, and my fingers are cold. If I've just got these on, my hands are warm. Now, I have woolen ones. I have my beautiful ones like this, which are made from animal skin. These are brilliant again, but these can be waterproofed. So I put dubbin over the top of this, and these work really, really well also. So these are for the tougher times in the actual winter months. I can't wear gloves. I've tried wearing gloves and my hands just go white. So these things work for me, and that's what I've found. If it's really cold, then I do have some ski mitts, but again, it's mittens. And then if I need to use my fingers individually, I have to take them off and work with something else. But you know, be comfortable out there. It's not a dressing up parade going out into your garden. You will have noticed that sometimes I'm wearing some of the most ridiculous colours. Well, at the end of the day, I can't see what I'm doing. But if you're going outside and gardening, you're going to get dirty. Yeah. But what I have found is buying something like these tops and trousers to work in is brilliant, and then everything else I will be thrifty and I will find second-hand down jackets, down gilets, all of those, because they're lightweight and they're warm. Anything that you can utilise for hiking and walking is good in the garden. So I've done all the outerwear, but I haven't done the footwear. So here's what I wear on the nursery to work every day. You will notice there are no wellies or gumboots. I don't actually own a pair of those. And on the nursery, we don't get many puddles and everything else anyway. So what I wear are things that are comfortable, support my ankles. I'm walking a lot, so my feet need to be comfortable. So I find walking boots to be very much the best thing to use. And my Scarpa walking boots have actually done me really proud over the years, and they are well used. They've had their soles replaced. I have to say Scarpa were really good when I suddenly found that they were starting to dissolve away, and they replaced them all. And now I have the tops, so the bases will probably last longer than the tops do now, but they are brilliant. They are great for working in. They're Gore-Tex, therefore they are waterproof, and I can re-proof them. That's always a good thing with those. And then in the same make, and do remember I'm not being sponsored or paid by any of these companies, I have my little walking shoes, which are also known as wall or climbing shoes, and I find these really good. They are lightweight, They work really well in the summer months when you still need to have a protected toe, but they are great. I don't need toe detectors on the nursery. I'm not operating machinery or anything like that. So as long as they are just protecting me, that's absolutely fine. And then the things for pulling on and utilizing and using a lot of the time are my Blundstones. And I have various forms of these. And again, they are basically waterproof. You can waterproof them. I just happen to like the ones which have got the slightly different coloured tongues on them. But you know, they're great. They're really, really good. They work for a long, long time. And all of these shoes and boots I will have had for a minimum of 4 years, and I'm still using them. As I say, go for some of the things which you know work for you. And the same with the tools, it's the ones that you like and you use the most. Don't just go on the fads and see things and go, oh, I really need to try that. And then you find, don't use it that often. Yeah, my mowing machine gets used all summer long. My little tiny electric battery powered little tiny hand trimmer, absolutely brilliant. I use that in the winter, and then all the other tools I use all the time. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel.